Hi again guys, welcome back to this, which will definitely be the last video in this series on styling up this home page. Now this is basically where we're up to. We have achieved nearly everything we want to. Foot is fine, internal links are fine, text is going around the images. The only thing which is not looking so attractive is this navigation region up here. Okay, the way we want that to look should be more like this here. Okay, so we've got a nice hover effect and a gradient fill, and we've got rid of that annoying little gap between the header and the nav. So heading back to here, right, let's deal with this little gap for a start. Okay, so heading back into the code. And now I've mucked around with this for quite a while to try and get rid of that properly, and the only thing I've found that really works well is to simply put some margin at the bottom of the header, but a negative margin. And yes, you can have negative margin. We've actually used that when we had this last child. You might recall we had used this to pull in the last list item so it didn't move round to the bottom underneath the rest of the navigation. And we're going to do something similar here. So if we put margin on the bottom, and I'm going to put get the spelling right, -1%. Found that works okay. So let's refresh that. Okay, so that certainly has pulled that up, but now this is probably a little bit too close, and so let's tidy this up. Okay, so just having a look at our nav code at the moment. Okay, having this height specified when we've already got the image itself down here as content is probably not a good idea. So I'm going to take that height out. Let's have a look at that in live view. Okay, hasn't really made that much difference, but it was probably unnecessary. Okay, I think the LI stuff is all okay. The last child's fine. Now the anchors themselves. Height 100%, it should probably leave. Now the padding at the top, I'm going to change that to 8 pixels. Padding at the bottom to 5. Font size 90%. Should be okay. Okay, so let's just have a look at that. Okay, that's looking better. Okay, certainly got that better gap at the top and bottom. Looks pretty evenly spaced now, so that's all good. Okay, now while we are looking at the anchors, this is where I'm going to add in a background image. Now for the background image, I'm actually going to use what's called a linear gradient. Now I created this using Dreamweaver, so I'll just show you how I did that. So let's just see where we are at the moment and go to CSS Designer. And one annoying thing with the CSS Designer is that sometimes that grays out Why? I don't know, but it does. Okay, let's just make this a little wider. And in Dreamweaver, I've gone to this here area here on background, and I'm using this tool here, the gradient tool. So what I've decided to do is to use a color down the bottom. Okay, actually choose the bottom one first. Okay, which was a sort of that greeny blue color. A little darker, but more green. Not working the way I want it to at the moment. Not quite getting where I want it to go. It's not too bad. Let's move that into somewhere about there. And then this top one here, I want it to be much lighter shade, but still of that green. Something like that. Let's just press enter there now. Now, as you can see, Dreamweaver puts a heck of a lot of code in here, and some of these values here aren't quite what I had after I mucked around with that for a while. And I've also found that with modern browsers, you don't actually need all of these ones here. So I'm actually just going to take those out for now. In fact, let's take that one out as well. Okay, so we've got a background image. Okay, so let's just try and explain a few things going on here. Okay, that's 0% and 100%. Once again, I found they're not strictly necessary. Yeah, no, that's correct. They're not strictly necessary. So let's just have a look and see how that looks. Refresh that. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, Dreamweaver just taking its time to get ready. Okay, so that's not looking too bad actually. A bit darker green than I wanted it to be. So let's just go back to the code view here. I'm just going to change these numbers to the ones that I had originally gone with. Now the first number here, this RGBA, specifies the color, and what this basically is the, well, when you look at it in this view, it looks like it's the bottom color. Certainly it is, and when you look at it that way. But that's because of this 180 degrees. If we put that at 0 degrees, go back to live view, refresh that, what you've got actually is from that darker color transitioning through to the lighter color, which is what that linear gradient normally would be. But because of this 180 degrees, effectively we're going from that light color at the top to the darker color down the bottom. And so this is the darker color here that I'm specifying. Now the 1 is the amount of opacity, so how transparent it is. So this is completely opaque. There's no transparency at all. And this one here, okay, we're going to go 83, 186, and 184. Save that, and let's go back to live view, refresh that again. Okay, that's more the look I was looking for. Okay, like those colors, it's a little bit better. Okay, so that is basically our background image. It's gradient fill. Now I also want to have a hover effect. So the way that you do that is to use what's called a pseudo selector. And it is the pseudo selector hover. So when we hover over one of these links, what do I want to have happen? Well, I want the background image to change. So let's copy that code, put it in there. And once again, after a lot of mucking around with various colors, I found that this pair worked quite well. 164, 216, 209. And I used exactly the same tool in Dreamweaver to get these colors here. Now you may be wondering, well, what happens if I don't have Dreamweaver? Well, there are some online tools which allow you to also create gradient fills and to get this code. Okay, and right, let's kind of look at that. Once again, refresh. Okay, so there's my hover effect, essentially going to a darker shade. Okay, and let's test that in a few modern browsers like Google Chrome. That's all good. Go back to here, test it in Firefox. Just waiting for Firefox to start up. Taking its merry time. There we go. And that's certainly looking okay, pretty good. Let's close that one. I said modern browser. Safari. This is no longer counted as a modern browser, at least for Windows. Last supported by Apple in 2012. So 3 years later, okay, we could basically discount this as a browser suitable for Windows. Okay, because it's not supported by Apple anymore, at least the Windows version is it. And IE, okay, this is the most recent version of IE, and let's go and have a look at the wonderful people at Microsoft, what they've done. Okay, there's our page rendered in IE. Isn't that marvelous looking? Okay, well done Microsoft. You really know how to write a browser. Okay, so let's close that disgusting looking effort and let's go to something more modern like Torch. Okay, so there's our browser and our web page again. Okay, so that's our home web page basically finished. Okay, now the last thing we're going to do, or you're going to do, is I'm going to give you the content for this Mal movement, and you're going to create the second page, and then we'll have a look at how we can link the pages together. Okay, catch you then.